thirsty.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm on
On the cord?
Yeah, I don't want to upset the iron in my procedure.
No, it's not like we haven't had a catastrophe before.
I know.
That we survived.
But we don't need one. Right?
We won't plan on one.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everybody. Oh, there's the
Molly,
crank.
will you get me a glass of water?
What?
Will you get me a glass of water?
No.
Yeah, he will.
Used water or a new one?
A new one. Good morning, Rosemary. Hi, Deborah.
Got a few on.
We
Up
have
to
a few.
25.
Boy, up to 29.
Stopper room.
We have a few people that's tuning in for our mystery quilt designed by Twyla. Hi, Shelley. Hi, Penny. Betty.
So I have a confession to make.
You do?
My tree is still up.
Your Christmas tree?
Yeah, it hasn't been lit for the last week, but it's still up. Every night I think, take down the tree, sew a little. Take down the tree, sew a little. So guess what's winning so far?
They're burnt, not lit.
Donna says it's bright, sunny, and crisp and chilly.
It's still
Cold and
quite
crispy.
crispy here, but I think it's
Where is
supposed
she?
to warm up a little bit
Where do you
compared
live,
to
Donna?
yesterday.
Good morning, Debbie Hill. Who was the last lady that posted our last mystery quilt with that awesome border? I don't know. Good morning,
I don't
Jan.
know, but it was
Good morning,
awesome,
Lynn.
that border.
Hey, Lynn, there is no applique in this quilt. That should make you
Yeah.
happy.
Lynn sounded so frustrated.
She did. Good morning,
Sorry to
Lorraine.
laugh,
Hi,
Lynn,
Bev.
but we've all been there over something that we're frustrated doing a quilt.
Eleanor, Carol Ann,
Just
Brenda
me,
Lotus. We have 63 people on. So we're just going to. Good morning, Wendy. Hope you're feeling better. Laura's on her way, or she's going to see you in a little while, Wally.
Oh, Wally must be getting his
She-
feet done today.
Yeah, he is. She likes your top.
Oh, thank you.
The cove is frozen in Peggy's Cove. Really? Good morning, Jackie. We just did something for Jackie yesterday, didn't we?
I think we did.
Tim
yes.
Holtz fabric.
Yes, we
Guess
did.
what, Jackie?
Ah, quiet.
Guess what, Jackie? Oh, Darlene still turns on you, Teresa. You can turn her to Teresa. You can turn it on.
Well, I had just stopped because we lost our power that over the weekend,
And then
right?
you get out of the
And
habit.
you get out of the habit, so I haven't done it. But
Yeah.
I probably either need to turn it on or take it down, one or the other.
Yeah. Okay, Hubert's on.
Okay, I think we can get started.
It was Phyllis Bolt, right Penny. Her
And
quilt.
wasn't it gorgeous?
I
her
loved
border.
her
What
border.
a sweet idea.
Yes, I'm going to be putting that on a quilt someday.
Yeah, very nice.
Denise says we're like her morning coffee. I don't like coffee.
I do. I got mine here on the shelf, so I can cheat and sip every once in a while.
Okay. So
Okay.
we are going to show you the first block of our second.
So just as a
mystery.
basic recap, I would suggest that you start with 35 to 40 fat quarters or quarter meter cuts, or work out of your stash. This is very appropriate to work out of your stash, and I would go with at least 5 to 6 meters of background. It is a little hard to be exact on what I tell you to get, because depending on how you personalize it or how you change it up or
Because
whatever.
we all know you ladies like to change
Yes,
things.
and that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
we do.
that's the fun part, seeing what everybody
Yes.
does different, right?
So feel free to do that
So
again.
feel free to do that. I'm going, no surprise, I'm using Lori Holt. I'm going to branch out on Deb's clothes sew along, but I'm not branching out on this one. Deb, however,
I am branching
is
out.
branching out on this one. So, you tell them what you're using.
I am using Tim Holtz fabric.
So Deb has never made a Tim
I've never
Holtz.
made a Tim Holtz fabric
quilt.
quilt. Well, I shouldn't say that. We did that when it first came in. That one that's hanging out there. It was a kit. It was something that came in, but I have
Yeah,
never.
but Lloyd did it, right?
That's
Didn't
right.
he?
That's
Lloyd
right, too.
did it. Deb's
Yes,
never
I picked
sewn
the colors
with
for that, but yeah.
Lloyd, Deb has never sewn
I've
personally
never
with
sewn.
Tim Holtz.
Correct.
So this is like a really different look, but it's nice to see. Like, and
Yeah.
she actually got a little excited. Now I will tell you, there was some humming and hawing, her trying to decide how to go out of her box here and do something different.
It didn't come easy.
It didn't.
It didn't come easy, but we're going to do it.
But she's the most excited about this option of any that we sort of played with yesterday.
Well, we tried to do Tula Pink, and that just...
She just could not get herself motivated for that one.
Well, there wasn't enough greens in my shop, and you need
Not
a few
to say
greens.
you do, but you don't.
I know.
And you'll see that is
Yeah.
probably today, right?
Yeah, you don't have to have leaves done in green.
Right.
But I tend to like that.
Right. But
But
if
I've
you
seen
look
quilts
online, there's a lot of quilts where
They
they
just
do.
use blue or
Yeah,
whatever color
anything.
they want
Yeah.
for leaves. But I want
Okay,
green.
so today's block is a little different in this respect that we're only going to do, what did I tell you, 7?
We're doing 7, yes.
We're doing 7, but we can't totally join them all together yet because 2
It's a
weeks from
surprise.
now when we do my sew along again, this sew along again, there's a surprise block that fits in with these in this row. So this is the block that we're doing that we're going to make 7. It's a big block. This is the biggest measurement wise, like length wise, of any block in the quilt. So this is what we're doing today.
Cute. Do you guys all like it? Let us know what you think of it.
So there are 7 of these. Now I'm going to show you that once you get them made, we're going to join 4 together like this. And you can probably see that there is like a sashing strip down there. And then you're eventually going to join 3 together, but I had 1 there because I don't want to hold up these big pieces every time I'm pointing to something. So I left 1 not sewn on, but there will be a 3rd one sewn to this one. So we're going to sew 4 together and then sew 3 together, but we're not joining those together until 2 weeks from now.
Oh, people
Okay.
like it.
So this block is a free block found online, and it is by Back Porch Blooms. And I think her name is Leanne Brummett. No, the block quilt pattern that this block came from was called Back Porch Blooms. It's by Leanne Brummett from Podunk Pretties.
Okay.
So I'm going to post the link so that you guys will actually have the full. You're just going to have to click the link, and all the instructions will be in the quilt project page, because remember, I can't get PDFs or anything printed on our Facebook group, the business one. So we got to go to the quilt page one. So when you open your link, you're actually going to have your instructions like this. It does use 1 paper template that's very simple that you'll need to print, and just be careful when you print it. See your box right here? Whoops,
Oops.
not right there, you don't. See your box right there? That has to measure. Take your little ruler, lay it over it, and it's supposed to measure your 1-inch square. And if that matches up when you print it, then your template's the right size for your pattern. If that is too small or too big when you print it, you need to adjust your printer. Like shrink it by like 5% and try that, or enlarge it by 10% and try that, whatever you think, until you get it right. Okay? So those will be linked on the quilt project page for you to click. So now we're going to show you here. Can you open that?
Open up.
Yeah.
We're going to show them
Here we go.
colors.
We got to turn you around here. So this, I'm going to also post. This is Deb's block. So this is the layout of the block when you're just laying out your pieces. See Deb's Tim Holtz fabric? Isn't that cute?
I like it.
And I will post that picture just so that you have a good idea of how to lay it out once you get your pieces cut. So in the instructions, I just want to show you that when you open your link, it's for a quilt. But if you go down the link a little bit right here, it says cutting for each block. So there's where you just get your single block measurements to cut, okay? And it's all laid out there. So you can either choose to do all your pots in the same color, or all your leaves in the same color. You can do your flowers all different colors. You can do whatever you want. But this is where we were saying the greens for your leaves. But I did go online and I saw all kinds of quilts that they didn't have leaves done in green. So Deb took one of her petals. I'm just going to go back. I'm sorry, ladies, me swinging around here. You guys are going to be dizzy as all get out. So Deb is working on these blocks. So these are the petals. And they measure, let me tell you what they measure. The actual flower petals measure 4.5 by 3, and you need to cut 4 of them. So Deb has, 4 of them for here and here and here. Out of this, if you prefer, out of the same fabric as your petals, you need to cut 4 of these 1.5 inch squares that are going to go on the center of your balloon. And your center can be a coordinating fabric. It can be totally switched up like mine was and be totally different, whatever you want your center to be. And see here, that's your little 1.5 inch blocks that match your petals. So Deb right now is sewing this piece, and she's doing these little corner triangles on there. So let's go back over here without making you too dizzy.
I'm going to get the last one here and lay it on.
So she has sewn
3 of them.
3 of them. So when you sew those on, just be very careful. When Deb comes back, she'll show you which way you're sewing your corners. You want them on the wide side.
Yeah, so I'm going to come down this way. And excuse me.
So you can either mark your little squares corner to corner,
or you can
fold them and make a crease, or you can eyeball it, whichever you prefer.
Make sure you're going in the right way. You don't want it to go the other way.
And then she's going to take her scissors and she's just going to eyeball a 1/4 inch seam to trim. But the one part on this section to be careful of is that you don't try to sew your triangles there and there. You need it on the long side. Okay? So there's your 4 petal balloons. I think she has them done. Where'd you put your... Oh, it's right here. Sorry, I'm hiding it. Okay, here we go.
Now I'm going to do
Now she's going to do the center. So the center block of your flower, but all of this is in the link that I'm going to send you. The center block, where is it? It's 4.5 by 4.5. You're going to cut 1, and you're going to cut 4 of your, this is where the pieces that you sew on aren't background fabric. It is the fabric that matches your petals. So 4 1.5 inch square measurement by 1.5 that match your petals. And that's what you're putting on each corner in the same manner that she just did the... And should scroll back and see if I missed any.
Any questions?
Okay, so the finished size of the quilt, Rosemary. I gotta look that up. Ah, Wally, jeepers. Breathing right down my neck. Scared me to death. Go away.
Wally, go away.
Okay, I gotta find it. So the finished length... Here, Deb, iron those while I talk.
Iron them?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the finished, when we totally get done with borders and everything, if you do the same borders I'm going to do, it's going to be 96 by 102. It's going to be like a queen size. Now, throughout making the quilt, if someone was interested in not doing a full-size queen, you could change it up and do a throw. But if you're considering doing a throw, I would suggest that you wait a few weeks and see what the options are, because I have enough rows in mine that it's going to make it too long for a throw. So you'd have to pick and choose which rows you really like the best to put in your throw. So that would be my suggestion. So for this particular row, like I said, we're going to do 7 of these, and then we've got a mystery block that we're going to add to it.
I need to sew these because I got my foot on.
Yep. So now she's going to move to her leaves. So the one thing to note with your leaves when you're putting these on, just set it back over there for a second.
Okay.
When you put those on, lay it out like this so that your upper corner on each block is next to the stem, and make sure that the length of your stem, that your leaf is not laying that way. You don't want the long side against the stem. You want that side. So that would be the only place you could probably get confused and sew your things on wrong. So for the leaves, out of your green or whatever color you choose, you need to cut 2 that are 4.5 by 3.5. That's the actual leaf. You need to cut a stem that's 1.5 by 3.5.
I think
And what?
Did I get that wrong? Are my things going like this?
Yeah. So look at my block. Here, so people
Okay.
see what she asked. So look at your block, and that will help you decide where to lay. So up in this corner and down in this corner.
Okay.
Okay?
Because it's easy. You could switch
You
them.
could switch it and have it wrong.
So you want to go
Yeah,
that
you want
way?
it that way. Yep.
I should put it
So you want, next to the stem, you want it in the upper corner on both sides, touching the stem. And then in the opposite corner for the other side.
Okay.
Okay, now your background material that makes your corners, those are the ones that measure 2.5 by 2.5 square out of background material.
And you notice I folded these because I can eyeball the small ones, but they don't trust me to eyeball these.
Mm-hmm. Now, one other thing that you can do, so while Deb sews those and trims those, because it's the same process she's been using, you will notice on mine, are you guys dizzy yet with me moving all over the place? I decided to go scrappy background. So see in my pot, this background has a polka dot. This is a chicken wire background. This one here is an X background. So if you don't have in your stash a whole like 6 meters of the same background and you want to do a scrappy background, so see, I do a lot of scrappy backgrounds because Lori Holt does a lot, and that's what got me started doing it. And I love it because you never run out of background material, or if you do, you just buy something else that you can slap in there. But I have decided that anytime our row needs sashing between, or the rows, as we join the rows, there's going to be a wide sashing strip between the rows. I have decided I am going to use the same background for the sashing between and the rows between. And that is the zigzag one here. See that? So that's what I'm going to use for sashing between my blocks and between my rows. However, if you weren't sure what you wanted to do in that option, I've seen some of these quilts, these type quilts, that they actually put a color here and between the rows to sort of set them off. So if you're not sure and you want to wait till you see a few of your rows, you may want to lay them out on some different color and put like an accent color here and in the sashing rows. So you could always wait and not join them together just now. But I am going to give you the cutting instructions for joining it together today. Let's see. I'm talking a mile a minute. I should go back and look. Let's see.
I'm hoping these leaves are on right.
How are you making out? Okay, so she's got her leaves and I think she's sewing them to the stem now. Is that what you're doing? Yes.
I did.
There. So there's her. Hold it up so they can see.
Oh.
There.
I was going to press it.
So she has her stem and her leaves done. So the trickiest part.
The nice thing I like about Tim Holtz is it looks like I've used different fabrics, but it's all
Yeah,
the same
see that?
fabric.
So that was the exact same fat quarter that she cut those out of. But yet it gives her variation within it. The same with these. So she gets that mottled color out of the same one. Now this is a different, this is a grunge, I think, that she put in the center of this one. So, what are you doing now?
I'm going to come over and get a flower to sew.
Okay, she's going to sew the flower together. So the trickiest part of this block, ladies, is the flower pot. And it's not that bad. We're going to walk you through how to use the templates. So she is now putting together a row. She picked up the top row across her flower. And she's going to join the 3 pieces together. The 2 corner pieces and the middle petal. Gwen Brewer says it's not a stash. It's called a creative resource.
I like
Cute.
that.
Yes, Wendy, you would be able to do this. This
Oh,
is
yeah.
not...
This is very easy.
It is. So, when we get to this part, here's your templates. Even though you're using a template, the directions do give the measurements to basically cut out your big piece first. So this flower pot, the measurements are 6.5 by 5.5, and you cut 1. And just remember when you lay your template on to cut it, that your template needs to go. Oh, can you get where you're going? Deb's just trucking along here, sewing together her rows of her petals. Make sure that you lay your template on so that the 5.5 measurement is this way and your 6.5 measurement is this way before you trim the sides off. And for this piece, just we'll show Deb doing it step by step. But you've started with an actual piece of background material that measures 5.5 by 6.5. You're going to fold it in half so that it measures. You're going to fold it in the direction to make it measure 3 by 5.5. So this is your 5.5 and this is your 3. So this was your 6-inch way. You're going to make a little crease with your iron, and then you're going to take your template and the straight edge of your template, not the slanted edge, you're going to lay on the fold. And you make sure when you fold your material that you fold the outside of the material, the print side of the material, to the inside. This is the back of the material that you want to have facing you. And then you're going to trim this. Once you trim off this extra here on the slant, you're going to open this up. And you're going to take your ruler, lay it on here, and trim along your fold, because you need the 2 pieces to go on either side. So this was just one I folded to show you that we need another piece over there. But you're going to actually get your 2 sides to your flower pot out of the 1 piece of material, 5.5 by 6. So there we go. And I'm in the picture that I'm sending you, or that I'll post in the link I post today. Down in the first comments will be the pictures. I've showed you which way your materials got to lay. And if your flower pot is a directional fabric at all, which Deb kind of chose how she wanted it, you need to make sure when you cut this that you're cutting it so that your direction isn't messed up. Like, you don't want, if you want your direction this way, don't cut it the 5. You've got to have it the right way. So just pay attention to that. Okay, so look, Deb's got her flower and her petals hooked. So now she took this part. Let me get a flower. So she just took the rim of the pot, which is actually, and I think the rim looks good in a coordinating fabric to the pot, but it could be matching as well, whichever you want. So the rim of the flower pot measures 7.5 by 1.5. You cut 1 piece. And then you, out of your background, you have 2 little squares, 1.5 by 1.5. So all together for the petals and down here, you need to cut 10 1.5 by 1.5 out of your background. But like I said, all your cutting directions will be in the link. So she's sewing that on each side of the rim.
Yeah, well, I figured out what was wrong with my machine.
No, she's technical difficulties over there. Okay, let me scan again. I have talked nonstop. Woo.
Well, you know what? You showed them how to do the pot, and I don't know how to do the pot.
Well, we're getting there. We'll walk you through again. Bev Pace says, where's the project page? So, Bev, if you Google, it's Deborah Howard. Is it just Deborah Howard project page?
Projects, yeah.
So I'll try to put the link in the main group today. I'll try to put a link in a comment, in a post there, so that you can just click it. But so it's the one where everybody posts their quilts that they're making on Deb's site. Not the business page where she does her Friday Night Live and posts the reveal fabric and all that. It's the other one. So Heather, the finished size of this block is going to be, if I remember right, it's 9.5 by 18.5 altogether. So now Deb has just sewn the rim.
Just put my rim on.
So we're going to get out the rotary cutter and the mat here, because Deb's going to do some trimming.
I'm doing some trimming.
You are on your template.
It's
fabric.
Single John.
Is Single
Oh.
John here? So you want me to trim this?
So,
Single John.
do
Hi,
you want
John.
to you want to
Turn it,
wave?
turn it.
Want to wave, John? Oh, he's going.
Okay. I'm
So
putting that there.
she's got the background fabric. It's folded in half. Remember, like I said, make sure you fold it in half the way that gives you the measurement of 5.5 by 3. Make a crease with your iron. Now lay the straight edge on the crease. I found, so that you don't cut your paper, that I like to just lay like you're going to cut right along there, right? But you got to hold it. You see what I mean, Vern?
No.
You're going to cut along there. If you
Along
think
here.
you can cut without cutting the paper, because if you cut a little off the paper every time, your pattern shrinks.
I see that.
Yeah.
But
So you could put a daub of your glue stick
that's what you
to
should
the back of your template. You could
I
put a
know
little
what I'm
piece of Scotch tape right along there and trim
Or
it.
use the other side of your select ruler because the sticky side doesn't let you put it on top of paper.
There you go.
There we go.
And she's trimming that off. So now she's going to open this up.
And cut down the middle.
And she's going to cut down that ironed crease. That ironed reese.
All right.
So there's her two pieces. Now she's going to trim her flower pot base. So line that up and trim up your sides. Lorraine, I'm not using batik. My blocks that I showed on here are Lori Hope. And Deb is using Tim Holtz. Oh, so there she goes, trimming up her template. So the trickiest part of this is
deciding which side goes where.
No. So they go, yes. So you will know once you open that up, if you put it this way, that isn't going to work because if you sew that together, you've got a slant and the side of your block should be straight. So it's got to go that way.
And that way.
Yep. Yep. Now this is the trickiest part for sewing.
Okay.
When you line this up, you want a little bit of the background sticking off this end and a little bit of your background fabric, your pot fabric sticking up there. And to be exact, where you start to see it should be your 1/4 inch mark. Now, on both sides. Now, in all reality, if that's off a hair, you can adjust it when you sew to your block. But I will tell you that when I did my first one, it was wonky as wonky. So be prepared to get your seam ripper out till you figure out how to judge. So you want a little bit of your background fabric hanging off of the bottom end of this one, and a little bit of your flower pot fabric hanging off the top. And look at that.
It worked.
See, Deb is so much better than me. I took mine apart, I think, twice before I got it right.
There we go.
Yeah, so now she's going to do the same thing. So a little bit of your background fabric hanging off the bottom and a little bit of your flower pot.
You know what feels awkward? You want to start here. Oh, never mind. I know what I'm thinking, but I don't know how to say it.
Look at that.
Well, it's off a tiny bit.
It's off a tiny bit, but that's what I mean by that much. I would make that work when I sewed it in.
Yeah.
If that's bothering you, take it out and adjust it. You know it's got to go a bit higher.
I'm good at making fudge.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I want to put my rim on it.
So now she's adding that to her rim and her bloom. So you will notice when you open up the link for these directions that the link includes directions for a border around this block, but because we're not doing the full quilt that she's doing. So show them how you're fudging that.
See how I'm fudging that? I'm letting
so
it go
see
there.
Where it was a little short?
I'm keeping it straight along there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm letting it fall in my seam allowance.
So her seam allowance will just be a little bit skimpy on that piece. That's how you fudge, ladies. So you're not going to put the written border.
See how I fudged?
There, let's get up close. There's her fudge.
Yeah, I still got enough of a seam to hold it.
Well, you do, because in some patterns they tell you to trim to it.
I like it!
Look at her block! Isn't it cute?
Oh, boy.
That is cute, Deb.
I love that pot.
Very nice. That pot's so much better than the other fabric she wanted, that she thought was so gorgeous for the pot, which she is going to do, but, you know. Anyway, that's it. But don't put, I'm just going to show you what I mean on...
We have such different tastes.
We do. Just let me, oh, here, I can do this over here. So this is what you're going to get when you open up your thing. Here's your cutting instructions. There's your step-by-step that walks you through what you're doing. And this And see, the very last step shows these borders being added around it, and we're not doing that. We're not even adding, see those inner white borders right next to the flower? Do not do that, because we are taking the flower pot and we're making it into something, like we're not putting it in her quilt. There's your template that you're going to download.
Let's finish it to this point.
Finish it to this point, but now I'm also going to, where's my scribbler?
Add it?
So if you know for sure that, like mine, you're going to sew your strips together with your sashing.
Yeah.
Your sashing needs to be cut. Where's my scribbler? Your sashing, you need to cut 9 of these that are 1.5 by 18.5 inches long. And you're going to join 3 together with a sashing on the outside edge between the 3 and on the other outside edge. Then you're going to join 4 together, and you're going to use the rest of your sashing strips. So see, we've put a sashing on the outside edge between every, whoops, where's my finger? Between every block, and again on that edge. So you would need to cut, like I said, what did I say? 9 sashing strips, 1.5 by 18.5. Do not join the 4 and the 3 sections together, because in 2 weeks we have a mystery block to add in there.
I like my color better.
I know you do, and that's great. Your color is very nice. Very nice.
Well, you know, I do like Lori Holt. And probably when the quilt's all done, I'm going to say, oh, I like Swila's better.
No, you won't, but it's, anyway. So, for the queen size, that's what you need to do. If you were deciding...
No, I don't need to be.
If you were deciding to do a throw, and if you decided that out of the rows we do, you're going to incorporate this row, I would make this row measure 48 inches wide, which would mean you would do 4 of these blocks, plus the mystery block that we're going to do in 2 weeks that goes with it, but you wouldn't need sashing.
Oh.
To make it 48 inches wide, and then by the time you put your borders, you'd have a throw size or whatever. So just, I'll put all of that in the write-up, but if I were you, if I was doing a throw, I would wait a few weeks to see some of the options for the rows, because how are you going to decide, like if there's, say there's 7 or 8 rows, you're only going to probably need 3 or 4 rows, and you don't want to start them and then say, oh darn, I like the 5th row better, and now I don't have room for it. Okay.
All right, everybody.
Here. So, here, do something with that.
Do something with that.
Yeah. So, I'm just wondering if there's anything else I should have said.
Yeah.
So, you can also, like I said, wait and decide on your sashing strips if you want an accent color, because I hummed and hawed about that. I almost thought about putting up an accent color, a sashing in between my rows as well. But then I decided, no, I don't think I'm going to. But if you think that that's an option you may want to go with, then don't sew your blocks together yet.
Yeah.
Wait till you get a few rows and you can sort of test them, laying them out on some fabric and see what you think.
So, are there any other questions?
Yeah. So it'll take me a minute to get things uploaded.
Yes, a honey bun would, because a honey bun is 1.5. You said the sashing's 1.5?
1.5.
Yeah, so a honey
Now
bun
it
would.
wouldn't work for your strips between the rows. They're going to be wider than 1.5 if you want to do the same one. Okay, so I'll just give you that heads up. Like, the good news is you don't have to decide all these little points right away. Like, maybe just do your flower blocks and then wait as things
I'm not going to
unveil
put the
over
sashing on mine.
You want to wait and see, because you had thought you might want to put an accent color, right?
Yeah, so I'm not going to do any sashing. I'm just going to do my 7 blocks before next week.
For sure. So was there any questions that we missed?
How many fat quarters? I started with a bundle of 30, and I'm not sure that it's enough.
And she has yardage that matches, so she can pull from that.
Yeah.
But I would suggest that you need to start with 35 to 40, and keep in mind that depending on what options you use, you may need to pull, like, everybody's going to do it different, right? Like, if somebody decides they want all their flowers the same color across their row, they're going to need more than a fat quarter to do all the flowers, right? So it's how you individualize it. That's why it's so hard.
And it's a true scrap quilt.
It is. This one is really designed to help you use up stuff you've got in your stash. You know, start with a fat quarter bundle, but some of 35 to 40, but something that you can mix some stuff in with it. Like Deb is actually mixing some grunge in with hers because it really suits it well, and it's going to make her fat quarter bundle go further, right? So for the centers of your flowers, you might be able to go with like a solid, you know, that will match with your fat quarter bundle or whatever. Or for the rims on your pot, you might be able to pull some solids or some polka dots that you've got in your, that would coordinate with it. So think outside of the box and be flexible, okay?
It's going to be, Stephanie wants to know if it's going to be country-ish. It's not like Kim Deal country-ish, the colors we're doing, but it could be used as
You could
country.
certainly do it with like a Kim Deal style or whatever. But
I don't think mine's going to look country.
yours is not going to look country.
And yours isn't, I don't consider Lori Holt country really either.
Lori Holt is more vintage,
Yeah.
right?
And whatever your fabric, that's what the take it's going to take.
Yeah.
That's the take it's going to take.
But I do think, unless you're the type person that is fine with your leaves not being green, or fine with like, or if you're the person that wants your flower pots to all be solid colors that resemble flower pot colors, then throw in some of those, right? But you do need, in my opinion, a good assortment of colors to sort of make this quilt work. I think it would work better with a good assortment of colors, and I do think you're going to need a few neutrals,
So
or
you
a
can use
lot
all
of you
those
will need
fabrics
some
that you buy
neutral.
from Friday nights.
It's a great place to use that. Like some of those blenders and stuff that you've bought from Deb,
Yeah.
this is a perfect place to use that in certain blocks to match in with your fat quarter bundle or your quarter meter cuts that you start with.
Okay. So that's
Okay,
it for today.
that's it. So give me a little bit of time to get things uploaded, and it will
You
be
really
there.
have 2 weeks to get this done.
Right.
Because next week is week 1 of the closed group. So the closed group, you have to pay $30 to join, whether or not you want to make the quilt or not, because at the end of it, you will receive a pattern for the quilt.
That is basically that value. So
That's-
to join, you're really not losing anything because you're going to get
A pattern.
a pattern that is basically that cost, and then you can do it whenever you want, right?
Jan wants to know if CAFE would work. I think CAFE would work if you had CAFE in the flowers and you calmed them down with like a grunge or a solid.
A grunge or something in the, like for the center of the flowers.
Yeah, I totally think CAFE would work.
Yeah, or a little bit of grunge or solids maybe on the rim of your flower pot, like to
Yeah,
break
just
up
to break the flowers.
bright, bold flowers of CAFE. I think you certainly could use it, but I would think outside of the box and find something to coordinate with it for some solids or low volume to make it work.
Okay, you cannot watch the closed group unless you pay the $30 because of copyright fees. But
It's not a free pattern. It's
No,
a purchase pattern, and
from the
we're not
shop.
allowed to give instructions and give measurements on a copyrighted pattern unless you purchase the pattern.
After I do block 1, I am going to post it on my project page so you can all see it, and you might think, oh, I might want to join it at that time. You don't have to join the very first. You can wait and see because I am going to post.
We're allowed to do that. It's no different than posting a picture
right.
of a quilt you make after you purchase the
We
pattern.
just can't describe.
And the
measurements.
closed group will remain there. So if anybody wants to purchase the pattern down the road and then be added to that closed group, like to follow along the weeks, it'll all be there. The videos will all be there.
If you want to join the closed group, give us a private message or give the shop a call, and we will invoice you the $30. Our phone number is 902-245-6343. But yeah, if you want to just watch a few blocks get posted and then make your decision, you're welcome to do that. Except I need to know because already I've had to order like over 25, almost 30 patterns. There's like that many people already joined. So I do just keep in mind that if you do join late, you might have to wait a little bit longer for your pattern.
Like if the patterns are back ordered for a month or something.
Yeah, but you will get them.
You would get them at the end of the sew along once we reveal what it is or whatever.
Yep.
And like you might have to wait a month, but it would be okay. You'd get it.
Can you get John into
Do a twirl? Oh, I really doubt it. He didn't even want to stop and wave on the way by.
John!
The ladies are requesting you to come say hello. He's not moving,
He's not
ladies.
moving, ladies. I don't think you're going to get a twirl out of him.
No, I don't think.
Okay, everybody. That is it. For
Oh,
today.
Wendy, is that the link to the project page? What is that?
Yeah, I don't know. Or that, yeah, that could be.
The project page link? Anyway, I'll try to link the project page in the write-up on the business page, the Quilts by the Bay page, because I will do a little post there saying where to go to get this week's directions or whatever.
Okay.
And this video will be on, to watch, will be on the business page on Quilts by the Bay.
Is this the page we find it for yours? If you're talking about mine, Wendy, it's going to be not on this page. No, we're going to send you guys an invitation once you pay the $30.
But Wendy, if you're talking about the cutting directions for this one today, if that's the quilt project page where everybody posts their, like where everybody was posting their pictures of the mystery quilt we just did before, the sew along we did before, that's where you're going to find.
Yeah, it says Deb Howard Quilt Project.
Yep, that's the one, Wendy.
That's the one.
That's
Wendy.
where this sew along
Will be
directions
posted.
will be posted.
Yep,
Mhm.
but not the closed ones.
Yeah. Okay. That's it, ladies.
Thanks for joining. We will see you back here for block
Oh, guess
2
what, ladies?
in 2 weeks.
There is a possibility of another storm Friday. We're
Yeah.
waiting to see.
Yeah, storm or not, we're still going to do Friday night.
But the good news is, Wally went yesterday to
And
get
got cord.
the
for the generator.
heavy duty wire he needed to hook the generator to the house, and that's what him and John are supposedly doing today after they finish their coffee in the kitchen right now.
Oh, they got to sit and discuss their plans. for a
Yeah, they
while.
got to talk it all out first
They've
and have
gotta-
coffee
yeah.
and plan their day before they move.
It takes like 2 or 3 hours for them to plan their 2 or 3 hours of work.
Yeah, it's a whole process.
Okay,
Okay,
everybody.
bye bye.
Bye-bye.